Who let this roach in? Somebody call the front desk. The trash took the wrong elevator.
Derek Caldwell said that without looking up. Lobby of Whitfield and Associates, 8 in the morning. 14 people heard every word. Isaac held steady.
I'm Isaac Owens, your new finance intern.
Derek's head snapped up.
Finance? You? Since when can street rats read spreadsheets?
Isaac didn't answer. His jaw tightened. That was all.
You really think you belong in a place like this?
So Derek picked up his coffee and poured it slow, straight down the front of Isaac's white shirt. Then leaned in and whispered,
Now you look the part.
14 people. Dead silence. But here's what nobody in that lobby knew. The kid dripping in coffee had a secret. And that secret was about to turn Derek Caldwell's whole world upside down. After the coffee dried on his shirt, Isaac didn't leave. He didn't call anyone. He didn't go to the bathroom to clean up. He stood in that lobby for a full 10 seconds, coffee soaking into the fabric his mother had ironed for him the night before. And then he walked to the front desk and asked for his intern welcome packet. The receptionist couldn't look him in the eye. She handed him a thin folder and pointed down the hall. Your workspace is that way. Last door on the left. Isaac followed the hallway past the glass-walled intern suite. He slowed down just enough to see what was inside. 5 desks. 5 brand new MacBooks still wrapped in plastic. 5 welcome kits. Company tote bags, branded notebooks, a letter from senior leadership, a fruit platter in the center of the table. 5 chairs, 5 interns. Every single one of them white. One of them, Haley Moore, looked up and made eye contact with Isaac through the glass. She saw the coffee stain on his shirt. She saw the thin folder in his hand. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then she looked back at her screen. Isaac kept walking. The last door on the left wasn't an office. It was a storage room. No window, no ventilation. A folding table pushed against a concrete wall. A mop bucket in the corner. 3 boxes of archived binders from 2014 stacked on the floor. The fluorescent light above buzzed and flickered every few seconds. The kind of light that nobody fixes because nobody important ever has to sit under it. No computer, no welcome kit, no letter, no fruit. Isaac stood in the doorway and looked at the room for a long time. If you watched his face, you'd see nothing. No anger, no self-pity. Just the quiet calculation of a young man deciding what to do next. He walked in, set his briefcase on the folding table, sat down. Then he pulled out his own laptop, a used ThinkPad he'd bought off a classmate at Howard for $200. He connected to the guest Wi-Fi because no one had given him the company network password. And he started working. Not the work anyone had assigned him, because no one had assigned him anything. He pulled up Whitfield and Associates' public quarterly filings from the SEC database. Revenue by division, client retention rates, operating margins. He started cross-referencing the numbers, building a preliminary audit sheet, the kind of deep-dive analysis that most junior analysts would take a full week to produce. Isaac had a working draft done by lunch. 12 pages, clean formatting, 3 actionable recommendations. Nobody checked on him. Nobody showed him where the bathroom was. Nobody brought him water. At noon, the other interns walked past his door laughing on their way to the break room. None of them stopped. Isaac ate a sandwich from a brown paper bag, alone, in a storage room, on his first day at the company his father built. Around 12:30, his phone buzzed. He picked it up. For the first time since that morning, his face changed. A small, private smile. The kind of smile that has nothing to do with where you are and everything to do with who loves you. He typed back, "Landed fine. First day. Love you, Dad." Then he set the phone face down on the folding table and went back to work. That text went to a contact saved simply as Dad. No last name, no title, no company name. Just Dad. And nobody in that building, not Derek Caldwell, not the receptionist, not Haley Moore behind the glass, not a single person on the 14th floor, had any idea who was on the other end of that message. But we're not there yet. What happened next was Derek Caldwell hearing from Troy Anderson that the kid from the lobby, the one with coffee on his shirt, the one who was supposed to quit by noon, was still in the building, still sitting at that folding table, still working. And for a man like Derek, that wasn't resilience. That was a problem. Derek Caldwell didn't like being ignored, and he definitely didn't like being wrong. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, word had quietly spread across the 14th floor. The black kid who got coffee poured on him in the lobby that morning? Still here, still in the storage room, still working. Derek heard about it from Troy Anderson, his junior associate, his shadow, the kind of guy who laughed before the joke landed and reported every whisper like it was breaking news. Troy leaned against Derek's office door, arms crossed. "He's still in there, on his own laptop. Looks like he's building some kind of report." Derek didn't look up from his monitor. "A report?" "Yeah, I saw the screen when I walked past. Quarterly filings, SEC data. The kid's pulling our numbers." Derek's jaw shifted. Something dark crossed his face, the look of a man who expected a problem to disappear and just found out it's getting comfortable instead. He picked up his desk phone, dialed the front desk. "Send someone to set up conference room B for the weekly briefing. And take that new intern off the attendance list. Owens." The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, the intern handbook says all interns are—" "Did I ask what the handbook says?" "No, sir." "Good. Handle it." He hung up. 30 minutes later, Isaac watched through the storage room's cracked door as every other intern filed into conference room B. 5 of them. Notebooks open, laptops ready. Derek at the whiteboard, drawing diagrams, cracking jokes, pointing at slides. Troy Anderson in the front row, nodding like a wind-up toy. Everyone laughing. Everyone included. Isaac stood up, straightened his coffee-stained blazer, walked to the conference room. Haley Moore was heading in. She saw Isaac approaching and slowed down. Her face did that thing, the micro-expression of someone who knows something is wrong, but has already decided they're not going to be the one to fix it. "Is this the weekly briefing?" Isaac asked. Simple, polite. Haley glanced into the room, at Derek, at the whiteboard, at the 5 empty seats that were all taken and the one that was never set up. Then she looked at Isaac, at the brown stain still faintly visible on his collar, and walked past him into the room without a word. She didn't answer. She didn't apologize. She just kept moving. Isaac stood at that door for 4 seconds. Inside, Derek glanced up, saw him, and turned back to the whiteboard like he'd seen a shadow and not a person. Isaac went back to the storage room, sat down, pulled up the intern handbook on his laptop. Page 4, Section 2.1. All interns shall attend weekly team briefings, regardless of division or seniority. He screenshotted it, saved it to a folder he'd created that morning, the one labeled Records. That folder had 3 items in it now: the handbook screenshot, a photo of his storage room workspace, and a time-stamped selfie of the coffee stain on his shirt from 8 that morning. Nobody knew that folder existed, but it would matter. Later. By 5 o'clock, Isaac had finished his preliminary audit. 12 pages. Revenue breakdown by division over 3 quarters. Client retention analysis. Operating margin trends. 3 specific recommendations for cost reduction that even a senior analyst would have taken a week to develop. He formatted it cleanly, wrote a professional email. Subject line: Preliminary Q3 Data Review. Isaac Owens, Finance Intern. Attached the PDF. Sent it directly to Derek Caldwell, his assigned supervisor. At 5:09 p.m., Derek opened the email. He read the first page, then the second. His face changed, not because the work was bad, because the work was good. Very good. The kind of good that makes a man like Derek uncomfortable, because it contradicts every assumption he's made about the person who produced it. He closed the PDF, clicked Reply All, copied the entire department, 46 people. Team, friendly reminder that interns are not to send unsolicited reports to senior leadership. If I need something from you, I'll assign it. Let's keep the inbox clean and professional. DC. 46 people read that email. 46 people understood exactly who it was aimed at. Not one replied. Isaac's laptop dinged. He opened the notification, read the email, read it again. His face didn't move. His hands didn't shake. But if you watched closely, really closely, you'd see his left thumb press hard into the edge of the folding table, pressing until the nail turned white, pressing until it hurt. He closed the laptop, slowly, sat in the storage room with nothing but the buzz of the fluorescent light and the sound of people packing up to go home on the other side of the wall. For the first time, a voice in his head, quiet, tired, honest, asked the question. Just call Dad. One phone call. One. And all of this goes away. Every bit of it. Tonight. He picked up his phone, opened the contact, stared at the name. Then he put it down, exhaled, and whispered to himself, barely audible, barely anything at all. Not yet. Day 2, 8:30 in the morning. Isaac showed up in a clean white shirt. He'd hand-washed the stained one in his apartment sink at midnight, hung it over the shower rod, ironed the replacement before sunrise. Same navy blazer, same briefcase, same face, the one that gives you nothing unless you earn it. Derek was in performance mode. 3 executives from a Fortune 500 partner company were on the floor for a client walkthrough. This was Derek's show. Big handshakes, big energy. Walking the clients through the office like he'd built the place himself. Isaac was at the coffee station, refilling his water bottle, staying invisible, staying out of the way, doing exactly what 2 days in this building had taught him to do. Then Derek rounded the corner with the clients, 5 associates trailing behind, Troy Anderson at his shoulder, 11 people total. Derek saw Isaac, and something shifted behind his eyes. Not anger, something colder. Opportunity. Hey, Owens, perfect timing. Performance voice, client voice, loud enough for the whole corridor to hear. Run downstairs, grab my dry cleaning from the front desk, then swing by Giordano's on Clark Street. Lunch order under Caldwell. You know where Clark Street is, right? Or is that too complicated? The clients stiffened. The associates looked at the floor. Troy smirked. Isaac set his water bottle down. Steady. Mr. Caldwell, I'm an intern in the finance division. I'm happy to help with any project-related... Project-related? Derek cut him off. Turned to the clients with a showman's grin. You hear this? Kid's been here 2 days and he's giving me job descriptions. Polite laughter from one client. Uncomfortable silence from the other 2. Derek stepped closer. Close enough for Isaac to smell the espresso on his breath. His voice dropped, but not enough. Everyone in that circle heard every word. Let me make this real simple for you, Owens. I decide what you do here. I decide what you are here. And right now, He reached across the counter, picked up a coffee cup. Hot, full, still steaming. He didn't throw it this time. That would be too obvious with clients watching. Instead, worse, he placed it into Isaac's hand. Slowly, deliberately, wrapping Isaac's fingers around the cup one by one, like he was teaching a child how to hold something. Your job today is to hold my coffee, carry my bags, and keep your mouth shut. Think you can manage that? Or do I need to use smaller words? Troy Anderson laughed, a short, sharp bark. The hallway was silent. Brenda Sullivan stood 10 feet away, manila folder in a death grip, knuckles bone white. She'd seen this exact scene before. Different name, different year, same man, same corridor. And every time she'd done the exact same thing. Nothing. Isaac looked down at the cup, steam rising between his fingers. Derek's handprint still on the lid. 11 people watching. Not one speaking. He held it for 3 full seconds. Then, slowly, steadily, without a tremor, he set the cup on the counter. Didn't slam it, didn't spill it, just placed it down the way you'd place down something that didn't belong to you and never did. He looked Derek in the eye, said nothing, turned around, walked back to the storage room. The door closed behind him quietly. Derek shrugged at the clients. Kids these days, no initiative. He laughed. The clients didn't. Brenda watched the storage room door close. She looked at the coffee cup sitting on the counter. She looked at her own hands, still gripping the folder, still shaking. In her office, on her desk, sat the welcome kit she'd been carrying for 2 days, the one Isaac never received. She'd walked past his door 6 times, 6, and every time she told herself, "Tomorrow. I'll say something tomorrow." This time she didn't walk past. She picked up the kit, walked to the storage room, and set it on the floor outside his door. Gently. Then she turned and walked away without a word. She didn't knock. She didn't speak. She'd been under Derek Caldwell for 5 years. She knew what happened to people who spoke up. The transfers, the bad reviews, the whisper campaigns. She'd watched it happen to 3 people. She wasn't brave enough to be the 4th. But standing in that hallway, watching a 22-year-old sit alone in a storage room with a stained collar and a folder full of evidence nobody asked for, she felt something she hadn't felt in 5 years. Shame. Not for Isaac, for herself. That feeling would keep her awake tonight. And tomorrow afternoon, in a glass-walled conference room in front of the entire floor, it would finally make her open her mouth. Later that morning, day 2, just past 10, Isaac made a decision. He wasn't going to sit in that storage room and wait for things to get better. He'd seen enough to know they wouldn't. Not by themselves. Not in a building where a man could pour coffee on an intern and 46 people could read about it in an email chain without a single reply. He took the elevator down to the 12th floor. Human Resources. Carlton Davis's office was at the end of the hall. Glass nameplate on the door. Framed degrees on the wall. Howard University, Georgetown Law. A family photo on the corner of his desk. A coffee mug that said, "World's Best Grandpa." Carlton was 52. Black. 20 years in corporate HR. He'd survived 4 restructurings, 2 mergers, and a CEO transition. He knew how buildings like this one worked, not because he'd read about it, but because he'd lived it. Every hallway, every closed door, every conversation that started with, "off the record." His door was always open. That was the policy. In practice, the door was open so people could walk in, and Carlton could decide how much of what they said would ever leave the room. Isaac sat down across from him, and for the first time since walking into Whitfield and Associates, he told someone everything. Not with emotion, not with anger, with facts. The roach comment in the lobby, the coffee poured on his shirt in front of 14 people, the storage room with the mop bucket and the flickering light, the intern suite 20 feet away with MacBooks and welcome kits for everyone except him. The weekly briefing he was barred from attending in violation of the Intern Handbook, Section 2.1. The reply-all email that humiliated him in front of 46 colleagues. The dry cleaning demand in front of clients, the cup placed in his hand. The words, "Hold my coffee and shut your mouth." He laid it out the way he'd laid out his quarterly audit. Clean, structured, undeniable. Carlton listened. He wrote notes on a yellow legal pad. He didn't interrupt. His pen moved slowly, carefully, like a man who understood the weight of what he was writing down. When Isaac finished, Carlton set the pen down, leaned back, let out a long, slow breath through his nose. "Isaac, I hear you. What you're describing is serious, and I want you to know that I take it seriously." "Thank you, sir." "Give me 48 hours. I'll look into this. I'll follow up with you personally." Isaac stood, extended his hand. Carlton shook it, firmly, with both hands, the way an older man grips a younger man's hand when he's making a promise he already knows he can't keep. Isaac walked out. The door closed behind him. Carlton sat motionless for 60 seconds, staring at the legal pad. Isaac's words in his own handwriting. Every incident, every date, every witness location. Then he picked up his phone. Not the desk phone, his cell. And he didn't call legal. He didn't call the ethics board. He didn't call the anonymous hotline that was supposed to exist but had been under review for 18 months. He called Derek Caldwell. "Derek, it's Carlton." "Yeah?" "I just had your new intern in my office. He's filing a formal complaint. The coffee, the email, the client walkthrough, he documented everything." The line was quiet for 2 seconds. Then Derek laughed. Not the nervous kind. The kind a man laughs when he's been sitting at the top of the food chain so long, he's forgotten what a threat even feels like. "Carlton, buddy, you're going to take the word of a kid who's been here 48 hours over mine? Over me? I built half the client list in this firm. I sit on the leadership review board. You know, the one that approves your department's budget every quarter?" A pause. "You really want to go down this road?" Carlton stared at the legal pad, at Isaac's words, at his own handwriting. He picked up his pen, drew a single slow line through the top of the page, and in the margin, in small letters, he wrote, "Informal feedback. No action required." "We're good, Derek." "That's what I thought." The line went dead. Carlton closed the legal pad and put it in his bottom drawer, under a stack of folders, where it would stay. By noon, Derek had shifted from defense to offense. He didn't go after Isaac directly. Not anymore. That would leave fingerprints. Instead, he did what 18 years of corporate power had taught him to do best. He worked the room. He showed up at the intern lunch, something he'd never done, not once in 5 years. He bought everyone coffee, told jokes, asked about their weekends, their schools, their hometowns, made them feel seen, made them feel chosen. And somewhere between the laughter and the lattes, he slipped in the poison. "Listen, I don't like talking about people behind their backs, but the Owens kid? There's something off." He shook his head with the practiced sadness of a man performing concern. "He's got an attitude, thinks he's above everyone. Sent me some unsolicited report like he's trying to show the whole department up on day one." He shrugged. "I've been doing this for 18 years. I know the type. High maintenance, low value." Troy Anderson, right on cue, leaned in. "I heard he already went to HR, Day 2. Who does that? Derek sipped his coffee. Exactly. Not a team player. My advice? Keep your distance. Don't get involved. By 1 o'clock, the transformation was complete. The other interns stopped looking Isaac in the eye. Conversations died when he walked into the break room. Haley Moore, the one who had frozen at the conference room door, the one who had looked at his coffee-stained collar through the glass and said nothing, now crossed to the opposite side of the hallway when she saw him coming. The herd had been turned. Every single one of them. That afternoon, Derek made it official. He reassigned the one project Isaac had been tentatively looped into, a client data comparison, and gave it to Troy. Then he called facilities and had Isaac's folding table moved. Not to a better spot, to a worse one. Past the storage room, past the copy machines, into a dead-end corner next to the service elevator, behind a wall of old filing cabinets. The kind of place where you put things you don't want anyone to see. At 12:30, Isaac sat in that corner, alone. Brown paper bag, sandwich. No one within earshot. The service elevator hummed behind him. On the other side of the floor, through 2 hallways and a set of fire doors, he could hear people laughing. Living a version of this job that he was supposed to have. He took out his phone, opened contacts, scrolled to Dad. His thumb hovered over the green button. 1 second. 3. 5. 7. He could see the call screen in his mind. 1 ring. 2. His father's voice, warm, deep, the voice that had read him bedtime stories and taught him to tie a tie and told him the night before he started this internship, "You're going to do great, son. I'm already proud." 1 phone call. 30 seconds. And all of this, the storage room, the coffee, the silence, the filing cabinets, all of it would be over. Tonight. He put the phone back in his pocket. Now, while Isaac was sitting by that service elevator, something was happening on the other end of the 14th floor that nobody was paying attention to. The corner office. The big one. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The one that had been dark and locked for 5 weeks while its occupant traveled through London, Frankfurt, and Singapore. That office was being opened. The executive assistant had been there since 8 in the morning. Fresh flowers on the credenza, new pens lined up on the leather desk pad, a crystal glass and a bottle of water. The kind of preparation you do when someone important is coming home. And on that desk, right next to the lamp, angled so it would be the first thing he'd see when he sat down, was a framed photograph. A tall black man with silver temples, arm around a teenage boy in a Howard University t-shirt, both of them laughing, the kind of laugh that only happens between a father and a son who actually like each other. The nameplate on the door read, Nathaniel Owens, founder and CEO. But that's a detail we'll come back to. Day 2, 3:45 in the afternoon. A black town car pulled up to the front entrance of Whitfield & Associates. The driver stepped out first, opened the rear door, and a tall man in a charcoal suit emerged onto the sidewalk. Nathaniel Owens, 58 years old, silver temples, posture like a man who had built something from nothing and never forgot what nothing felt like. Founder and CEO of Whitfield & Associates, the firm he'd named after his late mother's maiden name, because she'd cleaned office buildings for 30 years so he could go to college. He hadn't been in this building for 5 weeks. Overseas expansion, London, Frankfurt, Singapore. But today, no announcement, no email, no warning. He was back. The lobby receptionist saw him first. Her eyes went wide. She reached for the phone to alert the 14th floor, but Nathaniel held up a hand and shook his head gently. "No need. I'll find my way." He stepped into the elevator, pressed 14. Word travels fast in a corporate building, By the time Nathaniel stepped off the elevator, the floor was already buzzing. People straightened their ties, closed their personal tabs, stood a little taller. Derek Caldwell was the first senior leader to reach him. Big smile, big handshake, the full performance. Nathaniel, welcome back. Didn't know you were coming in today. The floor looks great, the client pipeline is strong, and the new intern class? Best group we've had in years. Nathaniel shook his hand, warm but measured. Good to hear, Derek. I've been away too long. I want to walk the floor, meet the new faces. Absolutely. Let me take you to the intern suite. Derek led Nathaniel down the hall to the glass-walled room. 5 interns, 5 laptops, 5 welcome kits. They all stood up when the CEO walked in. Nathaniel shook each hand, asked their names, their schools, what they were working on. He was genuine, not performing. The kind of leader who looked people in the eye and actually listened to the answer. Derek stood behind him the whole time, narrating. This is Haley, top of her class at Michigan. And Troy here has been a rock star, already contributing to client deliverables. Troy beamed. Derek beamed. The room beamed. Nathaniel smiled, nodded. Then he paused. He looked around the room, counted. Derek, I saw 6 names on the intake list. There are 5 people in this room. The temperature in that glass suite dropped 10 degrees. Derek didn't miss a beat. Oh, the last one's around here somewhere. Still getting oriented, I think. New kid. Taking some time to adjust. Nathaniel's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes shifted. The way a man's face changes when he hears something that doesn't add up and decides to find out why. Where is he? I'm sure he's around. Why don't we head to the West Lounge? The client's from... Derek? Nathaniel's voice was still warm, but it wasn't a suggestion anymore. Where is the 6th intern? Derek swallowed. I think he might be near the back. The East Corridor. We had a space issue, so we set up a temporary... Nathaniel was already walking. He moved past the conference rooms, past the break room, past the glass walls and the bright lights and the open floor plan where everyone could see everyone. Into the back hallway, the one with no windows, the one that smelled like industrial cleaner and recycled air. Derek followed 3 steps behind, talking faster now. Nathaniel, seriously, the clients are waiting. This can wait until... Nathaniel rounded the corner and stopped. There, next to the service elevator, behind a wall of filing cabinets, at a folding table with a flickering fluorescent light above it, sat Isaac Owens, alone, working on his used laptop. A brown paper bag crumpled beside him. No welcome kit, no company equipment, no human being within 30 feet. Isaac looked up. Nathaniel looked at him. The hallway went completely still. Derek stopped talking. Troy Anderson, who had followed out of curiosity, froze in place. Brenda Sullivan, who had been trailing at a distance, the way she'd been trailing this entire situation for 2 days, stood at the far end of the corridor, holding her breath. Nathaniel Owens crossed the hallway. His steps were slow, deliberate. His eyes never left Isaac's face. When he reached the folding table, he didn't look at the storage room. He didn't look at the filing cabinets, or the service elevator, or the flickering light. He looked at his son. And then he opened his arms and said, loud enough for every single person in that corridor to hear, Isaac, son, stand up and let me look at you. Isaac stood, and for the first time in 2 days, his composure cracked. Not into tears, into relief. The kind of relief that floods your chest when someone finally sees you after you've been invisible for so long. They embraced. Not a corporate handshake, not a performative pat on the back. A father pulling his son into his arms. A son gripping his father's jacket like he was 12 years old again. Nathaniel held him for a long moment. then pulled back, hands on Isaac's shoulders, and looked at his face. Really looked. "You okay?" Isaac nodded. "I'm okay, Dad." Derek Caldwell's face had gone white. Not embarrassed white, not uncomfortable white. The kind of white that happens when a man realizes, in a single, irreversible second, that the ground beneath his entire career has just disappeared. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Nathaniel, I had no idea he was—" Nathaniel didn't turn around. Not yet. He was still looking at his son, still holding his shoulders, still reading the 2 days of silence and humiliation written across Isaac's face. Then, slowly, Nathaniel turned. He looked at the folding table, the mop bucket in the corner, the storage room with no window, the service elevator, the filing cabinets that had been arranged to block Isaac from view. He looked at all of it the way a man looks at a crime scene. Then he looked at Derek. "Why is my intern sitting next to a freight elevator?" Derek's mouth moved, but the words came out broken. There was a space issue. It was temporary, Nathaniel. I was just about to—" "Derek." One word. Quiet. Final. "I asked you a question." Brenda Sullivan stood at the end of that corridor. She had watched everything. She had watched for 2 days. She had watched for 5 years. And right now, in this moment, she felt something shift inside her chest, like a lock turning that had been rusted shut for a very long time. She stepped forward. Her heels clicked once on the tile floor. Everyone turned. "Mr. Owens." Her voice was thin, but it was there. "I think there are some things you need to know." Nathaniel looked at her, then nodded once. "I think you're right." He turned back to the hallway, to Derek, to Troy, to the associates who had gathered at the edges, watching. "Conference room A, 5 minutes. Everyone." Conference room A. Glass walls on 3 sides. Every person on the 14th floor could see in. Nathaniel Owens sat at the head of the table. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. He folded his hands in front of him and waited until every chair was filled. To his left, Isaac, still in the same navy blazer, still carrying 2 days of silence on his shoulders. To his right, Derek Caldwell, jaw clenched, sitting straight, already rehearsing his defense. Across the table, Carlton Davis from HR, eyes on the legal pad he'd brought, the same one with the crossed-out complaint. Brenda Sullivan, clutching the arms of her chair like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Troy Anderson, bouncing his knee under the table. 2 members of the leadership board, summoned by phone 5 minutes ago, still trying to understand why the CEO had called an emergency meeting on his first day back. And beyond the glass, the entire floor. Standing at their desks, leaning against doorways, watching. Nathaniel spoke first. Quiet. Measured. Like a man who already knew the answers and was giving everyone one chance to tell the truth. "Isaac, tell me about your first 2 days." Isaac didn't look at Derek. He looked at his father, not as a son, but as a professional reporting facts to the head of his company. He started from the beginning. The lobby, the roach comment, the coffee poured on his shirt, the storage room, the meeting he was excluded from, the reply-all email that humiliated him in front of 46 people, the dry cleaning demand, the cup placed in his hand in front of 3 clients, the corner by the service elevator. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't editorialize. He just laid it down, piece by piece, like evidence on a table. When he finished, the room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning. Nathaniel turned to Brenda. "Ms. Sullivan, you said there were things I needed to know. I'm listening." Brenda's hands were shaking. She gripped them together under the table. And then she started talking. She didn't just talk about Isaac. She talked about the last 5 years. The junior analyst who transferred out after Derek called her diversity hire in a team meeting. The account manager who filed a complaint and found himself on a performance improvement plan 2 weeks later. The intern 3 summers ago who quit on day 4 and never told anyone why. "It's a pattern, Mr. Owens." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "It's been happening for years, and we all knew. Every single person on this floor knew. We didn't say anything. Because we were afraid." Nathaniel let her words sit. Then he turned to Carlton. "Carlton, did Isaac file a complaint with your office?" Carlton looked like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. He opened the legal pad. The crossed-out notes were visible to everyone at the table. "Yes, sir, he did." "And what did you do with it?" Silence. 3 seconds. 5. "I downgraded it. I classified it as informal feedback. No action required." He paused. His voice dropped. "I did that because Derek reminded me that he sits on the board that approves my department's budget. And I chose my job over my responsibility." He looked at Isaac. "I failed you. I'm sorry." Nathaniel nodded, not in forgiveness, in acknowledgement. Then he turned to Troy. "Mr. Anderson, when Mr. Caldwell placed a coffee cup in my son's hand and told him to, what was it, shut his mouth, were you standing there?" Troy's knee stopped bouncing. Yeah, I was there, but I didn't. Did you laugh?" Troy opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His face answered for him. Nathaniel turned to Derek. The room held its breath. Derek was already leaning forward, ready to talk, ready to explain, ready to perform the way he'd performed for 18 years. "Nathaniel, listen, this has been blown completely out of proportion. The kid is oversensitive. I was tough on him, sure, but that's how we build—" "Derek." Nathaniel's voice didn't rise. It lowered, and somehow that was worse. "I built this firm on one principle. Every person who walks through that door gets treated with dignity, not because of who their father is, not because of what they look like, because they showed up, because they earned their seat, and because it is our job to develop them, not destroy them." He leaned forward. "You didn't just disrespect my son. You disrespected every person in this building who has ever been too afraid to speak up because of you. And that ends today." Nathaniel stood. The room stood with him. "Derek Caldwell, you are terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Your severance is contingent on a signed non-retaliation agreement. If you contact any employee of this firm outside of legal channels, the agreement is void." Derek's mouth fell open. "You can't." "I just did." Nathaniel turned to Troy. "Mr. Anderson, 90-day probation, mandatory bias and professional conduct training. One more incident. One. And you follow him out." Troy stared at the table, said nothing. "Mr. Davis, you are formally reprimanded. Every HR complaint filed in the past 3 years will be audited by an external firm. You keep your position, conditionally, because you told the truth in this room today. Don't make me regret that." Carlton nodded. "Yes, sir." Nathaniel looked at Brenda. His voice changed, softer, warmer. "Ms. Sullivan, what you did today took more courage than most people find in a career. I'm forming an internal ethics review committee. I'd like you to lead it, if you're willing." Brenda's eyes filled. She nodded. couldn't speak. Nathaniel looked through the glass walls at the floor beyond, at the dozens of people watching. He didn't address them. He didn't need to. Every word he'd said had traveled through that glass like it wasn't there. Then security arrived. 2 officers, professional, quiet. They stood at the conference room door. Derek Caldwell stood up. For the first time in 18 years, no one in that building looked at him with respect. He picked up his phone, his keys, and walked out without a word. The security officers flanked him to the elevator. The 14th floor was silent. Then a chair moved. Haley Moore, the intern who had looked away at the conference room door, who had crossed the hallway to avoid Isaac, who had done nothing for 2 days, stood up from her desk. She walked across the floor to where Isaac was standing outside the conference room. Everyone watched. She stopped in front of him. Her eyes were red. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything." Isaac looked at her, a long beat. Then he nodded. "You're saying it now." The conference room emptied slowly. People filed out in silence. The kind of silence that happens when a room full of adults realizes they've been part of something they should have stopped a long time ago. Brenda Sullivan walked out last. She paused at the door, looked back at Isaac, and gave him a small nod. He returned it. No words needed. Then it was just the 2 of them, father and son. Glass walls, empty chairs. Nathaniel sat back down. The CEO mask, the steady voice, the controlled authority, the man who had just fired an 18-year employee without flinching. All of it fell away. What was left was a father. He looked at his son's blazer, the faint brown stain still visible on the collar from yesterday's coffee, the wrinkled white shirt Isaac had hand-washed in his apartment sink, the folding table and mop bucket still visible through the hallway door. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. His voice came out quieter than it had been all day. "Why didn't you call me?" Isaac looked at his hands, then at his father. "Because I needed to know." "Know what?" "That I could stand in a room like this, with a man like that, and still be me. Without your name, without your title, without anyone in this building knowing whose son I am." He paused. "Just me, Dad. I needed to know if just me was enough." Nathaniel stared at his son for a long time. His eyes glistened, but nothing fell. "And?" Isaac nodded slowly. "I can. I know I can." Nathaniel reached across the table and gripped Isaac's hand. Not a handshake, a hold. The kind a father gives when he wants to say 100 things but only has the strength for one. "I've always known, son. Since you were 12 years old. I've always known." They sat like that for a while. No words. Just the hum of the building around them and the late afternoon light coming through the windows that Isaac had never been close enough to see until now. In the weeks that followed, things changed. Not just the small things, the big ones. Nathaniel didn't give speeches about what happened. He didn't send company-wide emails full of corporate language and empty promises. He changed the infrastructure. First, every intern, starting immediately, would receive identical onboarding. Same workspace, same equipment, same access. No exceptions. No temporary arrangements. A checklist verified by 2 people on day 1. Second, an anonymous reporting hotline managed by an outside firm. Not HR, not internal. A separate number with a separate team that reported directly to the board. Derek Caldwell's name would never appear on another review committee. But more importantly, no future Derek Caldwell would have the power to bury a complaint. Third, and this one was quiet because Nathaniel did it without telling anyone, he called Derek Caldwell. 3 weeks after the termination, not from the office, from his home, on a Sunday evening. "Derek, it's Nathaniel." Long pause. "What do you want?" "I want to offer you something. Executive coaching, bias training, 6-month program, best people in the field. I'll cover the cost." Silence. "Why?" "Because I believe people can change. I watched you build half our client book. I know what you're capable of when you're not tearing other people down." A pause. "But that's your choice, Derek, not mine. The door is open. Whether you walk through it, that's on you." The line was quiet for a long time. Derek didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He said, "I'll think about it." Nathaniel hung up. And that was it. No follow-up, no pressure. Because redemption isn't something you hand to someone. It's a door. You can open it, but they have to walk through. 8 weeks later, Isaac Owens completed his internship. His performance review was conducted by a 3-person panel, none of whom knew his last name was the same as the one on the building's founding documents. He received a full-time offer. He accepted. His first project as a permanent employee? Redesigning the firm's intern onboarding program. Every detail. From the welcome kit to the workspace assignment to the first day walkthrough. He built it from scratch because he knew, better than anyone in that company, exactly what it felt like when the system failed. On his first official morning, Isaac walked onto the 14th floor. Same elevator, same hallway, same lobby where a man had poured coffee on his shirt and told him he didn't belong. Brenda Sullivan was waiting by the coffee station. She smiled and held out a cup. "Welcome back, Isaac." He took it. They looked at each other, and everything that had happened between that first morning and this one passed between them without a single word. Isaac took a sip, smiled. "Good coffee." That story you just heard? It's fiction. But the feelings Isaac went through, the assumptions made before he opened his mouth, the coffee on his shirt, the room full of people who saw everything and said nothing, those aren't fiction. According to the EEOC, over 60,000 workplace discrimination charges are filed every year in the United States, and those are just the ones that get reported. For every Isaac who stayed, there are hundreds who walked out that door and never came back. Derek Caldwell didn't lose his job because the CEO's son was black. He lost his job because he treated a human being like trash, and an entire floor let him do it. So here's the question. It's not about Isaac, it's about you. Next time you're standing in that hallway and somebody pours the coffee, what are you going to do? Are you going to be Derek? Are you going to be one of those 12 people who looked away?